In a nation where great emphasis is levied on public loans with little to no clear trajectory to a sustainable debt repayment plan, is a nation headed straight for a repressive economic outlook. To make matters worse, if this nation doesn't realize this and keeps on taking more and more public loans, there is no telling the kind of economic disaster that lies ahead. Sadly, this is the story of the great republic of the little Gambia, who finds herself in a vicious cycle of continuous borrowing with no clear path whatsoever to economic recovery and loan repayment plan. Ladies and gentlemen, to your utter disbelief, the IMF has just approved yet another colossal amount in the form of a loan for the Gambia, without giving a damn to the huge debt burden of the country, and despite being more likely to be unable to pay it back in the near future. The Gambia is still accepting loans from these perilous organizations like the IMF and the World Bank, despite them not having any other motive other than plunging the Gambia and the entire Africa by extension into a severe debt trap they won't be able to get themselves out of. But what is this loan the IMF just approved for the Gambia? The amount is simply outrageous. It is something that will leave you bewildered and begin to wonder, how are we going to pay this back? Make sure you stay till the end. Let's dive right in. The Gambia is in a precarious situation right now, with the country gripped by all forms of economic shocks such as high cost of living, unemployment, and a widened debt trap. Inflation has also been a persistent issue, further complicating the Gambia's economic stability. In recent years, inflation rates have been relatively high, eroding the purchasing power of Gambians and increasing the cost of living. High inflation can undermine economic growth by reducing consumer spending and increasing the cost of borrowing. Additionally, it can lead to social unrest if the population feels that their economic conditions are deteriorating without sufficient government intervention. But why do we have inflation in the country in the first place? This is largely due to the country's over-reliance on imports, making it very vulnerable to external shocks like geopolitical events, as we have seen in the Russia-Ukraine war, which has severely affected the Gambia due to their dependence on food imports from these countries. Another reason would be the government's heavy foot on constant tax increments, leading to inflationary shocks to the Gambian economy. In addition, high unemployment rates can lead to increased poverty and social instability, which in turn can deter investment and economic development. Addressing unemployment requires comprehensive economic reforms and investment in revenue-generating sectors that can generate sustainable jobs. The Gambia's current debt situation is a pressing concern, with the country's debt-to-GDP ratio standing at approximately 80.8% as of 2024. This high level of debt includes both domestic and external obligations, reflecting significant borrowing to meet various economic and developmental needs. The domestic debt alone has surged to $42.8 billion, which represents about 29.0% of the GDP. This increase in debt levels poses substantial challenges for the country, requiring careful fiscal management to ensure long-term sustainability, as reported by the Central Bank of the Gambia. One of the critical aspects of the Gambia's debt situation is the substantial increase in interest payments. In 2024, interest payments on the debt are projected to reach $5.9 billion, a significant rise from $2.9 billion in 2023. This surge in debt servicing costs indicates the government's heavy foot on excessive borrowing. It also indicates that a larger portion of the national budget will be dedicated to meeting these obligations, potentially at the expense of other crucial sectors such as health, education, and infrastructure, as hinted by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. This trend highlights the urgency for the government to be proactive and implement serious strategies to manage and reduce its debt burden effectively and efficiently. However, this will be nearly impossible to achieve considering the government's heavy prioritization of infrastructural liabilities. With the government refusing to prioritize assets to promote revenue generation in a safely manner, the government will only find itself borrowing again and again and again. To make matters worse, all those establishments bent on keeping the Gambia poor and entire Africa by extension through their unfavorable loan agreements imposed onto the African continent won't stop giving out loans. It is only up to the Gambia government and the African governments by extension to realize that these loans they are given by the IMF and the World Bank are highly malicious and not good for them. These loans aim to keep them in a repressive financial situation and stop African countries from growing because the growth of Africa is simply not good for the West. If Africa is a producing nation, the West will suffer greatly from competition, which will make them lose the African market. So they need to keep Africa poor by all means, and one brutal method they are using successfully is to tie us down with endless loans with unfavorable loan terms and conditions. The Gambia government needs to realize this, wake up from its slumber, and imitate the likes of Ibrahim Traoré, who just rejected a loan offer from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, that was proposed to Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré rejected this loan as it was regarded as a colonial trap to get Burkina Faso into financial mayhem. It is only a visionary leader who can see these things, and the Gambian government is highly unlikely to reject any loans proposed to the country by these Western financial establishments due to their clean track record of borrowing left, right, and center. This spells disaster for the Gambian economy. Taking a loan itself is not a bad thing. However, one needs to be very careful with the terms and conditions of the loans and make sure they are well spent in a way that would allow you to be able to pay it back. But how much is this loan the IMF has just approved for the Gambian government? Let's have a look at this, but first, this is a polite request to please support our work by liking this video and subscribing to the African Pacific YouTube channel, a Gambian-owned channel looking into the hidden secrets of the Gambia that are often ignored by mainstream media. We have decided to talk about things that no one is talking about in the mainstream media. Please show your support by liking and subscribing. Thank you so much. Now back to the actual figure the IMF has just approved for the Gambian government. Do you want to take a guess? Comment your figure down below. An International Monetary Fund, IMF team, led by Mr. 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐒 𝐍𝐎𝐓 conducted discussions with the Gambian authorities in Banjul from the 23rd of April 2024 to the 3rd of May 2024 and reached a staff-level agreement on the first review of the program supported under the 36-month Extended Credit Facility, ECF arrangement, which was approved in January 2024 for total access of SDR 74.64 million, which translate to about $100 million. Subject to approval by the IMF's executive board, the completion of the review would enable a disbursement of SDR 8.29 million, which translates to $10.9 million, bringing the total disbursement under the arrangement to about $21.8 million. I know this can be quite confusing for some of you watching right now, but we will break it down and put it very simply. At the conclusion of the discussions, Mr. 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐒, the head of the IMF delegation, issued the following statement. The Gambian authorities remain committed to their reform agenda. Their efforts have been commendable. The introduction of a new foreign exchange policy has allowed the official exchange rate to closely reflect market developments and alleviated foreign exchange shortages, said the head of the IMF delegation. However, this is far from what's on the ground. The Gambia's foreign exchange reserves are under significant pressure as of 2024. The reserves, which were approximately $490 million at the end of 2023, have been experiencing fluctuations due to various economic challenges, as reported by the World Bank and NOMA, an American data technology company. If one should balance this with the Gambia's huge import dependency with few exports, foreign exchange will be a very huge problem, and justice won't be done to the IMF's head of delegation's statement. To put this simply, the IMF Executive Board approved $100 million for the Gambia a couple of months ago in 2024, and it will be given in phases in a 36-month arrangement, with the Gambia requesting access to special drawing rights of $100 million. So, this implies that the loan was requested by the Gambian government, to make it clear. According to the IMF, the Gambia is making good progress on structural reforms in the first review. That's why the country is eligible for further IMF funding. The first payment of $10.9 million has already been paid, with the government set to receive another $10.9 million, which will bring the total sum to $21.8 million out of the original $100 million package upon approval by the IMF's Executive Board, which is expected by June 2024, next month. I hope we have been explicit enough, and we do apologize if you don't understand still. This is a polite reminder to please like this video and subscribe to the African Pacific YouTube channel. Thank you so much appreciated. In conclusion, most of the 189 member countries of the IMF are in a serious debt burden, as it is the case for our country, the Gambia. And hopefully, a special miracle will happen that will take us out of this choking debt trap. This is the end of this video. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.